Hello again, Mystic Michelle, your intuitive mystic wisdom is coming here to you today to talk to you about the dark moon energies, and that's what this reading's intention is. And if you've been following me, I definitely do dark moon readings. It's something new that I'm still kind of downloading and processing the information of what exactly that dark moon is. But what I'm fully gathering is that the dark moon is this gate time period between the full moon and the new moon. And so there's specific energies that are held and should be focused on during that time period. Luckily, like we love, this dark moon happens to fall around Mercury retrograde. So yay for that. And so the dark moon is this gate period. If you look on the actual calendar of when you last see the waning and when the waxing comes back in, you can see there's like between 3 to 4 days where we have a completely dark moon. And for me, this is a time period of definitely some great energy for healing. And a lot of the times that is in regards to release. So let's see what we should be focusing on during this dark moon. So the Grail 5. Guinevere. Out with Guinevere came the Stone Queen. And we've got the Two of Swords. We have Kava Kava coming in for our healing message. And we have Home coming in for the healing focus. So starting out with this dark moon reading, the first card that we have that came in was this Grail 5. This Grail 5 card is a representation of where you are in this moment and what has been happening in your life. This is a real indicator that there has been some illusion going on in your life, and this can be focused upon who you've allowed to be in your life, and you're starting to see that these people are very specifically see one person in your life that you've held on to for the last little while. You're starting to see that there's more beneath the surface, and it's not necessarily what you want to see. There's an illusion that they've been holding, and because of this, and you're starting to open your eyes to what's happening with that being, that you're starting to see the illusions that you've put on yourself because of them. Now, what I'm specifically talking about is how we allow the story that other people put on us to become our actual story. So this is a lot in regards to shape shifting. A lot of the times we try to become the energy for someone around us that we admire or that we're attracted to, whatever that case may be. There's somebody that we have allowed their version of us to rule our lives. And it's time to start breaking down what that illusion is, because they're starting to unmask. You're starting to see a little bit more about what's happening in their life that doesn't necessarily align with who they claim to be. And it may be that there's nothing wrong with them. They may be unmasking the same information that you are. But what you've done is you've actually created this reality where you're trying to hold yourself accountable to the story that they tell about you. And you are not their story. You are your own story. This story of who that you're holding on to is not about their version of who you are. And so things aren't aligning, things feel wrong. I'm just say the waters are choppy, and that is what we're being asked. That's what you're being asked to focus on in this time period, is what are those things that have become so second nature to you that actually isn't what you're supposed to be doing. It's not actually who you are. You're just attempting to fulfill a role that somebody else placed on you. Or even more so, that you've decided to put on yourself to please somebody else. It's time to take a look at that, because it's not serving you anymore, and it's not holding you to your highest good, and it's not serving them either. Because when you start to break down that stuff and you start to take that away, they're going to have an issue with who you are now, because you're not serving the reality of who they wanted you to be. So the next card in is Guinevere. Guinevere is a creator. She brings about fertility, and that fertility doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go pop out a bunch of kids. No, that fertility is creation. It's that abundance of being able to create something. So in this time period of this dark moon energy, the creation that is being asked of you to do in regards to what you're letting go of is, what story are you going to start creating to help shift your mindset so that you can step out of that story that you've been holding on to for so long. So it's kind of like when you have that story in your mind that you're unworthy, that you're not ready for something, that this can't possibly be the time, because why would you be chosen? It's time to start creating a different narrative. And we hear these messages all the time. You hear this message and you're just like, okay, but how do I start doing that? How do I start accepting that it's okay? You start accepting that these messages are true about yourself, that you are worthy, that you can create a reality, the reality that you want, by telling yourself this until you believe the story. So the whole reason you believed you are not worthy is because somebody told you long enough, or some people told you long enough, that you weren't worthy, or that you were this certain way. Example would be when we tell a kid that they're the bad kid because they don't sit and listen. Enough people tell a kid that they're bad kids because they don't sit and listen. Eventually, at some point, that kid ends up taking on that role because that's all they've ever been told. That's the only story that they've been told. So in order to deconstruct that narrative, one involves having a lot of supportive people in your corner. But 2, it really starts with what you're thinking for yourself and what you say to yourself. So if you're saying, well, I am just a mess, I am just this bad person, I do all these bad things. Yeah, we've all done bad things, but we cannot change that as well. So what we're doing here is we're recreating the story. So instead of saying all that, you can pause and say, no, return that message to sender. This is not who I am. What I am is I am a person of worth who is starting to set myself up for success. And you say that to yourself. I've even written that across the mirror, you are kind, you are gentle, you have compassion, and all these things, until I start believing that narrative. And so what we do is we keep repeating that story. Those thoughts come into your mind and you say, stop, return to sender. I am, and then fill in the blank of the story of who you know you are, because you're really the only person who knows who you are. And you're the only one who can create your story. So are you going to keep living in a story that someone created for you, or are you going to become your own creator? The choice is yours. Okay, so now we have the Stone Queen coming in. Now the Stone Queen is coming in upside down, so that is really just an awareness to have. There's not really a blockage. It's just more, we got to focus on this right here. So the Stone Queen, which comes in, this Stone Queen is part of the wintertime, which that's where we are right now, right? We're in the wintertime. So the Stone Queen really is about this need to focus on the perspectives that you have, the reflections that you're having, what is coming up within you. We already know that there's illusions coming up. So are you actually looking at it, or are you letting those just sail off and allowing yourself to ignore it because that is too much? That's too much feels. Sometimes the stuff that is the scariest, sometimes the stuff that hurts the most is really what we got to look at. The compartmentalizing, the pushing it down, really is just going to end up leading to some kind of explosion down the road. And probably not at the right person. So all that pain and frustration, it's going to end up amplifying, and then it's going to come out, and that person could be yourself. You could end up amplifying all of that crap that you have inside of you that you've been shoving down because, no, I don't want to look at it. That's pokey. That doesn't feel very good. I don't want to listen to that. You can end up putting yourself in a world of self-sabotage because you've ignored those feelings. So this time period is going to bring up a lot of stuff. This illusion that you're starting to see that you become for other people is really going to start showing up and start showing you things that go even further back, and even further back to the point where it started. You don't necessarily have to go all the way back, but if you get that timeline trail, okay, well, that started with this person. Well, where did that start? That started from this instant, and you go back. You don't have to do a deep dive into it. Just go to where it takes you. And if you're not ready to really just acknowledge that those feelings are there and feel those feelings. You don't have to do anything with it. You just feel them. What does it make you feel? Why does it make you feel? And how has having those feelings and having that way of reacting, how has that supported you in your life? Has it actually supported you? Is it continuing to support you? Or are you ending up and doing self-sabotage to yourself? Those are the things that we're looking at. These are the stories that we're recreating, right? These are the things the illusions that are coming up in this time period, doesn't mean you have to fix it all in this gate period of the dark moon. It just means that this is what we should be looking at, so that way over the winter time we can start weeding out our garden. We can start prepping for the spring, so that way we can actually be ready to allow all that good abundance back into our lives, where we can start nurturing yourself to have good in your world. So the Two of Swords coming in, and the Two of Swords really represents this. There's two sides of the road, there's two sides of the story. And you don't have to be in any of those stories. You don't have to sway yourself to one side or the other. You can actually forge a path right through. You don't have to take sides. You don't have to be anything that you don't want to be. You don't have to create anything that you don't want to create. And really what this comes down to is, if you're looking at these illusions and you're looking at where they started, and you're looking at how all of this is playing out in your life, and you see this side and you see this side, but you don't like either side of the road, and you don't like either of those options, you get to create your own option now. You get to really dig in deep and start being this new thing, start forging this new path for yourself. And believe me, it can be a little dicey at times because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to do something that you're not used to. It's uncomfortable to start telling yourself how worthy you are. It's uncomfortable to create that new narrative because we've never been there before. And so what you tend to do is you tend to slip right back into these old illusions that you've allowed other people to create for yourself, that have been deep within you over time and over time. We can slide right back into that role, but it is not something that you have to do. You get to choose to create something new. You cannot grow in a comfortable position. So when you're really uncomfortable with telling yourself how awesome you are and how capable you are of doing something and how worthy you are of the life's journey that you're currently on, and that you're worthy of your goals, it's not going to feel right. It's going to feel really wrong to say that, because that's not the illusion that you have been so used to. So during this time of the dark moon, what would be really what I suggest that you do for yourself is actually to write down what those scary things are, what those goals are, what that new narrative is, what that is that you want to forge for yourself. Write it down, so that way you can start, every time you start leaning to one side of the road or the other side of the road, you can actually lean into where that's that path right down the middle that you're just like, I see you, but I'm not going, nope, not going to follow that path. I'm going to keep going this way. I'm not going to go get lost in the woods over there. I'm definitely not going to get lost in the woods over there, because that was a minefield and I just came out of that. And so write down where you, in this time period, because it's going to take time to create this story, right? It's going to take until a little while to get used to this new narrative. And so you got to actually give it that time. Give it that opportunity to sink in. And I'm not talking about a couple days. I'm not talking about a week. I'm talking about, it's probably going to be a daily practice for you. It's probably going to be an hourly practice for you to remind yourself, what that trail that you're blazing is. What is it that you are creating? So use this energy of this dark moon to help amplify and direct you to that new path of ideas that you have, the ones that were the scariest. Write it down, put it in a place where you can always see it, whether it be on your mirror or your fridge or your front door, in your car, next to your computer, like on the wall in your cubicle, whatever it may be. Put that down. So in those moments of times where you're having a moment of doubt, you can look and see and remember what the new path you are trying for. Because it's important. Because you are worthy and you are deserving of a life that is thriving. But in order to do that, sometimes you have to go through the sticky stuff. Sometimes you have to go and be uncomfortable for a little while till it can start feeling like it's normal. Okay, and so for your healing message from the plants, we've got Kava Kava coming in. This is the community card. So with this dark moon reading and with the energy that's flowing behind it, this sense of community that is being asked of you right now is actually this desire, this ability to have people around you that will support you in these new narratives that you are creating yourself. Envelop yourself around people that support you on your goals, that say, that's awesome. I may not understand what you're reaching for, but I want you to get it because this seems like something that you should be doing. Those are the types of people that you're going to want to create and have and hold as community members, so that when you're having a moment where this illusions become so overpowering that it's making you doubt things, it's pushing you back into this state over here that you can't actually get to this creative thing, you're going to want this community to reach out to. So make sure that the community that you have shaped around you is a supportive community that even if they don't technically understand exactly what you're going through, they don't need to, because they support you in whatever version of yourself you are. And they're going to help lift you up when you start going down and reminding you of, hey, no. This is what you told me you were going for, and I think you can. I support you. I love watching this happen for you. Keep going. Keep doing it. So find that community. You probably already know who those people are. This is the people that you want to make sure that you can, not make sure that these are the people that you're going to want to reach out to over the next little while. I'm even getting this sense that you may even want to reach out to them to even get to a place of understanding what these new ideas are, because they've been listening to you and they've been watching you and they have been waiting for you to start unraveling the illusions, and they're going to help remind you of things that you told them that you wanted to bring into your life. They're going to help remind you of what those are. So that during this time period, make sure you're reaching out to those people, because they really are here for you. You're not a bother. You aren't a drag. You need their help. And eventually, at some point, you may be that person for them. So reach out to your community, because they're there to support you. And if they're not, find a new community. Seriously. So lastly, we have our healing focus. And we have home coming in. And I was really confused about this when I first pulled it, because I was like, wait, you're supposed to be reaching out to your community. What is that? Because this card's coming in upside down. So what is going on with that? What is the awareness we're looking for? Here's the awareness. You've got to check the energy you're holding in your house. If you've been purging, if you've been in a state of depression, if you've been in, use this time period during the dark moon to flip the energy in your house, to help raise that vibration. Clean that thing that you haven't wanted to clean because it was just too much. Start shifting things around, start organizing things down. You don't have to do a complete deep clean, but you can shift the energy, open up a window, let some of that staleness out. Because if you're in this state where you've just been beaten down by all of these things that are pulling back up, especially under this Mercury retrograde, there's so much stuff. I mean, there's been so much shifting of energies lately that there have been a lot of people in a state of what the fuck, because we're in a heavy state of releasing stuff that no longer serves, and we have been for a while. I mean, I'm talking about like since July or even further back. But what's happened and what this is guiding to is the fact that you've actually not done anything with your house. You haven't cleared any of that energy from your house. And so it's time to start raising the vibration, because if you're going to change that narrative and you're going to start talking to yourself in healthy ways and start being a little bit uncomfortable and creating this new path, you got to have a place that holds a vibration of not keeping you down, but actually helps lift you up, that keeps you going. So this is just in this time period. Take the opportunity, take this glorious dark moon energy and help bring in and harness some of that amazing vibrations to help pull the energy of your house up. So I don't know if you sage, but you can sage. I always like to do a sage. I always like to sage and clear first, and then I was gifted Palo Santo, and so then I'll use Palo Santo to pull in energy. So I do two separate types of clearings. So do that. I rearranged and cleaned all my crystals. Just doing that. Pushing things around, just moving that energy, because that energy in your house is stagnant and it's time to shift it, because there's been a lot of stuff going on, and so it's keeping you down. You gotta shift and start moving that energy so that we can start creating again. So there you go. So thanks for joining me on this dark moon reading. I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope that this gives you some ideas what to do during this time period between the full moon and in this gate period of the dark moon energy and before the new moon comes, especially with that Mercury retrograde happening. Things can get a little dicey. So, as always, happy healing, and I'll see you for the new moon reading.